Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, and today I want to bust a few myths about automation and also talk about, well, it's actually a great time, an ideal opportunity to retire many of the things that we all hate about the old way of office life. Repetitive, mundane tasks, frustrating processes that just make no sense whatsoever, and just slow everything down. And anyone that questions it are given the answer, hey, but we've always done it this way. I mean, does that sound familiar? If it does, don't worry, you're not on your own. It's an answer that people get all over the world. And today's guest is Ricardo Kraft from a company called Connexiom, which is a cloud-based sales order automation solution that companies such as Grainger, Genpact, Diversey, and so many others are using to eliminate manual order processing. And what's put them on my radar is they have unprecedented year-over-year company growth of over 70%. And let's be honest, in this climate, that is pretty impressive. So buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Vancouver in Canada so we can speak with Ricardo from Conexiom. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, I'm the EVP of Product Management and Product Marketing for Conexiom. And I've been with the company for a year, and I'm based in Vancouver, British Columbia. And prior to Conexiom, I ran a global product and technology organization for a publicly traded business services firm, and I was based in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Fantastic. And I'm conscious we will have a lot of people tuning in and hearing about yourself and Connexiom for the very first time. So just to get everyone on the same page, can you tell me a little bit more about what Connexiom, or what you do at Connexiom, and how does it help organizations all across the globe maintain a competitive edge? Because it is a crowded market out there, but you guys are quite unique, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. So Connexiom is a SaaS platform, and we're domain experts. We're the world leaders in sales order automation to eliminate manual order processing. So we primarily work with manufacturers and distributors around the world. So that includes companies like Grainger, Genpact, Rubix, Computen. And so we have over 400 customers globally, and we manage about $100 billion worth of orders on behalf of our customers. The company is based in Vancouver, British Columbia, but we have offices in Kitchener, Ontario, in Canada, as well as London, England, and Chicago, Illinois as well. And so my role as head of product management is to really think about what are the functional capabilities in the product that are going to help our customers automate their business, particularly around sales order automation.
And there's so many reasons I'm excited to get you on the podcast today. And before we started recording, we were both talking about just how much the world has changed in the last 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I remember clearly last year, automation was something a lot of people were going after, but equally there was a bit of a stigma around it and around replacing people with automation. And of course, I think over the months, we've started to learn that it's not about that at all. It's actually about freeing people up from doing those mundane, repetitive tasks and empowering them to do something else within a business and create more value add activities. So on that front, I'm particularly interested to read Bain's recent survey, which said the automation of business processes is rapidly scaling up now, especially with the fallout from the coronavirus, which I've noticed as well seems to be accelerating adoption. But is this something Connexiom is also seeing in this post-pandemic world? Because you're right in the heart of this at the moment.
Yeah, we are. You know, it's interesting. So this pandemic has been a shock for so many, and we saw a couple of dynamics that affected our business. Obviously, in early March and April, we saw some hesitation in our sales cycles as the world was adjusting. Yeah. But very quickly, we saw an acceleration in demand for Connexiom because we were perceived almost as a business continuity solution. And let me step back a minute and just kind of explain the business problem that we solve. So if you look at the U.S. Department of Commerce data, there's roughly, I don't know, something like $17.4 trillion worth of B2B transactions in the U.S. and North America alone. And it's comparable in the UK plus the EU. But surprisingly, only 50% of those transactions have been digitized. So what do I mean by that? So, about 25% of those transactions are EDI, which has been a technology that's been around for a while. 10 to 15% go through e-procurement networks, and about another 10 or 15% are actually handled by B2B commerce websites. And so the remaining 50% of those transactions are still manual. And by manual, I mean, as a buyer buying something from a manufacturer or distributor, I need to create a purchase order. So I'll go into my own ERP, I'll create a purchase order. And what I'll basically do is drop it into an email and send it to a CSR, a customer service representative at a manufacturer distributor. At that point, that individual needs to open up the PDF document. We see this when we talk to customers and visit with them. They open the PDF document on one big screen, and they open their order management system on the other screen, and they're swivel chairing. They copy paste or key punch that information in, and that leads to errors, and it leads to lost productivity. And so what Connexiom really focuses on is we automate that process. We make those manual orders and we turn them into touchless orders. And so going back to the original question, as the pandemic hit, we had several customers that came to us and said, we can't get our CSRs in the office. We need your solution in place immediately because they need to be remote workers, but we're not set up to actually have CSRs working from home, given the way that our systems are configured. Alternatively, we also saw with some companies, think about manufacturers and distributors in this time where they sell health supplies or healthcare supplies or ingredients to manufacturers of health supplies. Their order volume spiked 2x or 3x. And so luckily, some of our customers had Connexiom in place. And so instead of having to keep their CSRs working overtime and on weekends or trying to hire people in a pandemic, which is really, really difficult, they were able to scale up very, very easily. So it was an interesting time for us going from a sales order automation to almost a business continuity solution.
Love that story. And I would imagine that manufacturers and distributors understand that problem better than most because they're drowning in customer inquiries at a time where staff are working from home without their typical tools to hand. So can you tell me more about how order automation can actually help reduce costs, create resource efficiency, scale to thousands of trading partners, and ultimately improve the customer experience? Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? And it seems... Yeah. It almost seems unusual to hear about a technology that reduces costs and elevates the customer experience at the same time.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting. If you're a manufacturer or distributor, and we've seen this looking at order data across our different customers, you typically see order patterns where 20% of your customers drive 80% of your order volume. So it's the Pareto principle applies. And so as businesses become more and more competitive, the cost of losing one of those high value customers is really, really expensive. So if you go back to the use case that I talked about before, if a CSR is manually entering an order and they make a mistake, let's say they send the product or the order to the wrong location, they enter the wrong part number, they send the customer a pallet instead of a case. Those are really expensive mistakes. And so the cost of solving that problem is difficult in and of itself. But as you and I know, typically people switch from one company to another, not because the product is poor, but because the service is bad. And then the cost of reacquiring that high valued customer is really, really expensive. So by automating this process and eliminating some of those order entry errors, you're able to retain your more profitable customers. The second thing is most CSRs spend probably 30 to 50% of their day manually entering orders. And so if they don't have to do that tedious, arduous work, but they can rather focus on higher value activities, revenue generating activities, delivering better service for their customers, it's a win for everybody. So they can up-level their skills, and the business is also able to thrive. As a really interesting example, we had a customer who had a team of 8 CSRs, and 70% of their time was spent on order entry, and about 30% of their time was spent on selling and servicing the customer. And then post-implementation, that ratio flipped on its head. So 70% of their time was then spent on higher valued activities, and about 30% of their time switched back to kind of core order entry. So, and then the other thing that was interesting is when a couple of people left the business, the CSR manager didn't have to backfill those roles, even while order volumes were increasing during the pandemic. So I think it's one of the things I love about Connexiom and the role that I get to play is we deliver massive value for our customers. We really tangible benefits for our customers, particularly times like this.
And I think Sandy Shen, who's the Senior Director Analyst at Gartner, recently said it best when they said that this is a wake-up call for organisations that have placed too much focus on daily operational needs at the expense of investing in digital businesses and long-term resilience. Because businesses that can shift technology capacity and investments to digital platforms will ultimately mitigate the impact of the outbreak and keep their companies running smoothly now and over the long term. And in hindsight, yes, that is very easy to say, but can you share your thoughts and insights on that quote?
Yeah, definitely. We were recently speaking to a distribution customer of ours, and they told us something that was really interesting. They said as they increased the number of digital orders in their business by threefold, so I think it went from like 15% to 45%, they saw a 2x increase in EBITDA, or their profit. And that's a really interesting kind of business change, because that level of profit return allows a company to invest in more tools that supports the needs of remote workers. It allows them to be more competitive because they can reinvest in the business, or it just gives them the financial flexibility when times get tough. And then the other thing that's interesting is those types of investments help companies deal with these types of business shocks or business interruptions that they might see in the future. They don't know that if there's a spike in order volumes that they're going to be able to, find additional resources all of a sudden to fulfill those orders. And so they're able to do more with the same. And so I think, like I said before, it gives businesses that business flexibility and agility so that they can scale. Sometimes investments in automation they're highly scrutinized because I guess ask any CIO and they'll tell you that they've made plenty of technology investment that hasn't paid off. But sometimes systemic shocks really forces people to accelerate changes and advance these types of investments. It forces you to focus really on solving kind of the really hard, big problems, and also helps companies think about improving processes and data, which also enables future greater automation.
And I think it's also worth highlighting that at Conexiom, you're actually validating Bain's findings that we talked about a few moments ago, because you've got an almost unprecedented year-over-year company growth of more than 70%, which is just phenomenal. But can I ask that you share how Conexiom has been able to generate that kind of success with everyone listening?
Sure. I think there's two main reasons. So number one is we're domain experts in sales order automation. We also do some, on the flip side of that, AP invoicing as well, and some other sales documents. But our core business is sales order automation. And we understand the problem probably better than any other company in the world. So we've been focused on solving this very specific problem of sales order automation on behalf of our customers for more than 10 years. We've seen more than 22 million purchase orders flowing through our systems, and we've enrolled or onboarded, as we say, more than 50,000 trading partners on behalf of our customers. So, when you think about deploying technology and having a trusted partner and somebody who's been there, done that, I think when customers engage with us, they understand that we're very confident in our ability to, solve this problem for them. I think the second reason, though, and this is probably even more important, and I spoke to it earlier, is we can deliver real tangible results for our customers. We have several customer references where we took a very tedious, arduous manual order entry process and transformed that into a touchless order process. Grainger is a very large distributor in North America, and they use Connexiom. So the use case there is a customer from Grainger, they'll create a purchase order in their own ERP, they'll email it to Grainger. That email gets routed automatically to Connexiom. We extract the data off of that purchase order. We turn it into the appropriate order format for Grainger systems. And that order is typically completed in less than 2 minutes, and then it's picked, packed, and shipped from a Grainger warehouse in less than 15 minutes. So that is massive value, because Grainger doesn't have to tell their customer, gee, you need to invest in EDI to deliver digital orders, or they don't need to tell their customers, I know you already created this purchase order in your own system, but I really want you to go to my B2B website and key punch in all that information. We don't change the way a buyer wants to buy, and yet we deliver improved levels of service on behalf of our customers.
Love that. And I'm also curious, from the conversations that you're having with your clients, are there any reoccurring business problems in what people are coming to you and asking for your help with right now? Because I would imagine there is, especially with the current climate.
Yeah. I touched on a few already, but certainly improved order accuracy is obviously going to lead to improved customer service and customer experience. The other one is customers regularly say, how do we eliminate these manual processes? If I have a salesperson at a distributor at a branch, I don't want them keep punching orders in. I want them to sell more. I want them to have product knowledge, learn more about the products that they're selling. And so, again, it's how do we help our customers or our employees focus on higher value add activities? The other recurring themes are, again, just being able to drive efficiency and scale into their business to remain competitive. So, the world is just by default getting more competitive, and if you're not able to do more with the same and or differentiate your offerings relative to your competitive set, you're going to fall behind. And then I think the last one, which has been really interesting from a product perspective, is I regularly get asked, how is it that you're using AI and machine learning as part of your product offering? And that's something that, given our domain expertise and given the rich data sets that we sit on, we're able to use AI and machine learning to really focus and solve a lot of these really hard business problems. And, the nice thing is these kind of core themes that we're hearing regularly from our customers very much align with the value proposition and what our product does for our customers.
So for any business leaders listening, how can companies quickly implement automation to future-proof their business and maintain that kind of resilience post-COVID? Because I know it sounds quite easy on paper, but it's not as simple as that, is it?
No, it's not. And, there are plenty of, stories of people buying software and, it's sitting on the side of the road because it never got implemented or people don't use it. We typically can get customers up and running, and we can deliver pretty meaningful business value in about 30 to 45 days. And a couple reasons for that. One is we have a fantastic customer success team, and we can often move faster than our customers. The reason we're able to do this is, again, just back to our domain expertise, as well as our business model. We're focused on identifying those trading partners that are driving the majority of your order line volume. So if we can come in and quickly automate your top 10, 15, 20, 25% of your customers, that's driving 80% of your order volume, that's going to have a material impact on your business. Some companies, some buyers come in and they say, hey, I want to drive automation across all my customers, which is great aspirationally, but there's so many edge cases and use cases in that scenario that it's really getting 100% touchless and 100% automation across all your customers is tricky. And so we're not a big, complex software implementation project that has to get deployed across the enterprise. We're a cloud-based solution, and we just simply ask our customers to tell their customers to email their orders to us. We can use their domain. And then we go through a process where we use our machine learning to quickly understand how to treat those orders during the onboarding process. And then we need to understand how do we take that information that we took off that PO and how do we drop it into your business system, whether it's an ERP system, your EDI, order entry system, and or even your B2B commerce engine.
And of course, you've got a bit of pressure on your shoulders now because you have had unprecedented year-over-year growth of 70%. So I've got to ask, what's next for Connexiom, and how do you guys keep up the momentum and continue to build your success?
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be at Connexiom. There's a few exciting opportunities for us. So first of all, we're expanding our footprint in Europe. So as I said before, the market problem is as big in the UK and the EU as it is in North America, and we already have many large customers there, but we'll be growing our footprint there. From a product perspective, we'll continue to invest in machine learning and AI to continue to automate this really complex business process and this problem, as well as figuring out how to use machine learning and AI to accelerate how we onboard our customers onto our platform so that we can accelerate that time to value that we were just talking about previously in the previous earlier. And, over the last 2 weeks, I've been speaking with several of our customers, looking at our roadmap and getting product feedback. And we're really excited with the product direction and the validation that we've seen with the market.
Excellent. Well, a huge thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Before I do let you go, can you just remind everyone listening of how they can find Connexiom online and equally contact your team if they've got any additional questions?
Sure. The easiest way to find us is at our website, so www.connexiom.com. Connexiom is spelled Conexiom, and or reach out to us on our page on LinkedIn.
Well, I'll add all those links to the blog post that will accompany this episode. I'd love to stay in touch with you as well and see where this journey goes, and maybe get you on later this year or early next year to see how things are going. But more than anything, just a big thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you, Neil.
I cannot thank Ricardo enough for coming on the podcast today and also for earning his place on my cool guys I want to share a beer with if I'm ever allowed to fly again. And it is an important topic, not my list of people I want to share a beer with, of course, but the acceleration of automation for business resiliency, especially as companies aim to re-emerge from the COVID-19 fallout with modernised processes tied directly to data-driven decisions and measurable business value. But this is something that every business is going through right now, so I want to throw my virtual microphone over to you all and ask you to share your opinions, stories, thoughts, insights, whatever they may be, or even just ask me a silly question. Whatever it is, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. You can find out how to work with me and also browse through over 1,300 podcast interviews. But it's time for me to go now, so a big thank you for listening as always, and I'll see you tomorrow bright and early. So until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.